Hey guys, it's me, Wilson, and we're back with another video. And this time, this video is on F122, but it's a little bit of a different one. I'm making a video pretty much on how to practice efficiently on F122. I'm kind of going to try and structure the video in the sense of how much time you have. I saw a video somebody made kind of like this. I can't remember who it was. It was quite a while ago. So I would like to give them credit for the idea, but I can't remember who it was. So if you do know who it was, feel free to leave it in the comments. So yeah, I'm going to try and structure it in the sense of how to practice if you've got a week, 5 days, 3 days, 1 day, an hour, 5 minutes type of thing, and even how I practice with my esports team, how I practice with my teammates, just a little bit here and there. So yeah, let's get straight into the video. So I think it goes without saying that everyone has a different method of practicing. It could be a lot different from person to person, so I would take all of this with a pinch of salt, in the sense that it might not work for you. But yeah, I'm going to try and give the best advice I can to hopefully what will work best for you in the sense of time trial, online, Grand Prix, and what I think works best. So if you've got a week to practice for your races, it's quite a lot of time. So you can use this very, very efficiently. This is probably the most time you need to practice for one race. You've got plenty of time if you do it right. So yeah, I would say start in time trial if you've got a week. Spend a day or two on it, depending on how you feel. You could even just spend a couple of hours in time trial, depending how comfortable you are. Have some fun with it, or try to have fun. At least time trial can be quite annoying. Don't change the setup in time trial, or at least I would advise you not to change it. I would just use it to get as quick as you can. The good thing about time trial is you know what setups other people are on. So in theory, there's not much of an excuse to be slower than other people. You can use the same setup, see how far you are off the top guys, or wherever you are skill-wise. But yeah, I would recommend not changing the setup. Just practice with that setup and compare yourself, learn the track, and try and go as quick as you can effectively. But I would be careful to not get stuck in the trap of just practicing on time trial all the time, because you will just end up burning yourself out, and you will just kind of chase a time that has really no meaning. So very quickly, or fairly swiftly, you want to move to Grand Prix, I'd say, and take the time trial setup, move to Grand Prix. This is probably about 2 days after you've started practicing, or even 1 day. Spend a day or two on Grand Prix building a setup, or it could even be an hour. Take the time trial setup, build the setup on Grand Prix, and really just find something that works. Try high wings, try low wings, find what you think's best. The lap times don't need to be unbelievable. You're just trying to find something that feels good, something that's quick, and something you can take to online and then work from there on. And you probably want to spend about a day on that. I'd say at least a day or so. Maybe even less. If you want to spend less, you can always spend less. So you're probably round about the 3-day mark now. The rest of your time you do want to spend on online, apart from the end, which I'll get to in a minute. So yeah, you can rest of the time just spend your time in online. One thing I would recommend when you're practicing online is put corner cutting only on. So this means once you've finished your laps, you can actually turn round, so do a U-turn essentially, and go into the pits. This just means pretty much that you can go into the pits, get more laps in, and yeah, it's just more productive for you. Obviously, you can't do this in a real race, but I'm pretty sure every single competitive driver does this. So that's a quick tip if you don't already do that. So yeah, I'd go into online after about your second or third day, or at least that's what I usually do. Second or third day I'm into online. You want to spend the rest of your 4 days in online just tweaking things. You want to do a lot of qualifying mainly. Make sure you're up to pace in quali. Also, do a lot of race. The race is very important, especially when you've got 1 week of time to practice. The race, you may as well practice it. You can win a lot of time by being quick in the race, and people usually push it to the side, but trust me, I've learned a lot in experiences, and I'm sure a lot of people have as well, that not having race pace is probably the most pain that you can go through. So yeah, honestly, it might be boring, but test the race, test the strategy. If you've got a friend, try I would say the hard medium against the medium hard with your friend. When's the optimal pit lap? Try the undercut with your friend. Try the overcut with your friend. Things like this. If you've got 1 week, you can try pretty much everything. You can even try wet practice if you want. I don't do wet practice for league races, at least in online. I just don't really, how do I say it, like, feel the need to. League races are a little bit more casual. If I was doing something involved with esports, 100% do wet practice. But this leads me on to my last point about if you have 1 week. Definitely, or I would advise you do 10-15 minutes of wet time trial the night before your race. I used to do this, and that's why I said this will not be the last of your time trial experience. So yeah, I'd recommend doing a little bit of time trial in the wet. You know, it might not harm you, but yeah, essentially, if you've got 1 week to practice, just try and get everything nailed. Make sure you do race, do wet if you want. I know it can be boring, but sometimes it can win you a race. And yeah, I wouldn't shy away from that type of stuff. So I hope that's kind of covered. If you've got 1 week, pretty much if you've got 1 week, just do everything you can, have fun, and make sure there's no issues by the time you come to race. So I'd say we'll move on to how to practice if you've got 1 day. So if you've got 1 day to practice, and when I say 1 day, I mean I'm basing this off of the day before. So let's say your race is, I don't know, at 7 at night. This is the day before at 7 at night as well. So it makes it pretty difficult. Not impossible at all. I would usually, if I have done races on just 1 day practice, pretty much a few people do, and you kind of just want to, start off in time trial, do about an hour of time trial, half an hour, move on to Grand Prix, or even just skip time trial if you feel confident enough with your braking points, all that type of stuff. Take the time trial setup, go into Grand Prix pretty quickly after about an hour, I would say. And if you don't know this tip, what I would do as well is go into Grand Prix, go to your last run, set a delta, do all that stuff, and then once you're on your last run, stop at the last corner and do a mid-session save. And what this allows you to do is pretty much treat Grand Prix like time trial. So you've got tire temps, you've got all that, where you just pretty much click load save, and then you'll be spawned in at the final corner, and you can just keep doing that like it's a time trial session pretty much. And I would say pretty much just do that all night, unless you've got a friend to practice with. I would just do that all night. Stuff like that is really helpful, especially if you've not got much time. And I would just spend the rest of your time, if you want to do things like online, just do a lot of quali. Focus on race if you feel like you can. But yeah, no wet practice. I would just do a lot of quali. Make sure you're up to pace. If you're really quick in quali, you can always kind of consequence it for the race. So it's not the end of the world if you've got 1 day to practice. You can actually do quite a lot in 1 day. You can make quite a good baseline. So I'd say that's how I would practice for 1 day. There's not much more you can really do. I think that Grand Prix tip is quite good. You can do wet practices as well if you want, but I just don't know how productive that would be, considering how unlikely it is to rain at most places. So yeah, that's how I would practice in 1 day. Just make sure you do a lot of quali laps. Make sure you've at least got a baseline, a setup that works. Maybe get a setup, keep it, and if you feel a little bit uncomfortable in certain things, just stay with the other setup, because yeah, the last thing you want to be doing is going into a race with 1 day of practice and a setup that is awful. So just take the time trial setup, tweak it a little bit, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that would be pretty solid just for 1 day of practice. So, trying to keep this video sweet and short, we'll go into how to practice with, I'd say, under 1 hour. Yeah, I'd say about under 1 hour. I was going to do 1 hour or 5 minutes, but I think if we just do under 1 hour, we can kind of structure it better. So, if you've got under 1 hour, it makes it quite difficult. There's really not much you can do, to be honest. If it was me, I've done races under 1 hour. Usually, if I'm called up in the last 5 minutes, I will literally just quickly hop in a Grand Prix session and do some laps, because this is the closest you're going to get to the actual session. You can flashback, you can check things, you can check braking points. The flashback tool is a very good tool as well. So I definitely recommend, if you've got under 5 minutes, just hop into Grand Prix or hop into time trial, and just, flashback if you need to. It's not about trying to go as quick as you can at that point. It's about trying to learn the track as quick as you can. take the time trial setup. If you've got a friend, take their setup. But if you've got no one, just take the time trial setup, lower the pressures a bit, maybe make it a bit more stable, add a bit more wing, take a bit wing off, kind of that kind of region. I mean, your expectations are going to be very low if you don't have more than 5 minutes to practice. But if you've got an hour to practice, you still have a decent amount of time. You could maybe spend 5 minutes of that on time trial, just quickly learning the track again, using flashbacks for breaking points. Then take that setup, or take the time trial setup, go into Grand Prix or online. I would recommend going into online very quickly, with about 50 minutes to go, and just do as much laps as you physically can. Don't do any race, maybe 2 laps a race if possible. And yeah, just pretty much wing it. There's not really much you can do. Again, that Grand Prix trick where you go to the last corner and do a mid-session save would be very helpful at this time. So you could do that as well. The only thing is that when you do Grand Prix, it's actually different to online. I can't really tell you what about it is different, but many esport drivers do say it's different, including myself. Yeah, there's just something about it that's just not the same as everything else. So I would definitely recommend either doing Grand Prix or online. If it was me, I would do online. That's just what I prefer. It's just I just drive better in online. So yeah, if you've got that little time, there's not much you can do. And if you've got no time at all, just take a time trial setup, lower the pressures, change the wings a bit, and just wing it. Usually, the time trial setups, from what I remember, they usually have a little bit more wing than you need, so you could always take a little bit off. You're always better with a tiny bit less wing than tiny bit too much, I would say. Being quick in the straights usually isn't too much of a bad thing. But yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much the video. I've tried to be as informative as I could be, really. There's not really much more I could say other than the kind of tips I shared. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory when given how much time you have to practice. Anywhere in between the time of, a week to 1 day, it's pretty much just the same. If you've got 2 days, you can kind of just do it online. 3 days, it's pretty much just the same. You can kind of just sit there, do a tiny bit of time trial, and then a lot of online, a lot of race, that type of thing. But I hope I was more informative in the sense of the tips. Things like the mid-session save at the last corner in Grand Prix. That's very useful. A lot of esport drivers do that, as well as turning it on to corner cut and only. A lot of esport drivers do that, so you can turn round, go into the pits quickly and get a lap done. I also recommend, if you've got time to practice, always do the small things like making sure you know where to brake in the pits. Things like these can be very important. Getting a 5-second penalty will ruin your race, I think, no matter what type of tier you're in. So just the small things, make sure you pay attention to detail if you have time. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to be as structured as possible. I really wanted to make this video, but I couldn't quite find the perfect niche to do it. So I hope you guys kind of enjoyed it. I want to make a video on how to make a time trial setup, a race/multiplayer setup. So hopefully I'll do that maybe next week. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a good night. See ya.